So Teresa, let's bring you into this. I would love to hear your take. I know you've been sitting kind of just listening.
I was talking.
I know,
I
I know,
kicked off
listening
of this or
so
not.
patiently and quietly while we talk about her calling card issue, which I love so much. So I can't wait to hear your take on this. I mean, give us the DL. Like, what are you thinking about all these things tonight?
Oh gosh, I mean, as a pro-life Democrat, our position is just not fun. It's not a
Yeah.
satisfying election for us in terms of voting or being able to really celebrate the outcome of this in a way that's meaningful. So it's kind of sad, but it's motivating because it reminds me of how important it is that pro-life Democrats continue to push back on the party, that we must force the party to break their relationship with the abortion industry.
Yeah.
And that's something that only pro-life Democrats can do. And we know that we can do it because we have a majority, at least, that want late-term abortion ended, that want abortion extremism to end. So while it is a little, of course it's unsettling, the circumstances that we're in this year, I think there's a lot of hope for the future. And, to put into perspective a little bit what Kristen was talking about too, which I think Kristen has a lot of really compelling points. I was that voter in 2016 that considered myself pro-life and voted for Hillary Clinton. I voted for a pro-choice candidate because I was, very compelled by, I was very afraid of the Trump presidency. I was very compelled by my other, left-leaning points of view to go a step further rather than just not voting for him. But as kind of a protest vote, I had decided to vote for Hillary Clinton. Now, obviously, I deeply regret that. And I think that that is not the way for pro-life Democrats to go. But I think that we do have to have understanding. Not that we don't need to have that conversation that, giving direct aid to the abortion industry and to pro-choice Democrats is truly what is perpetuating this situation over and over with abortion extremism. But I think that, we're all on a journey, I guess you could say. And, for pro-life Democrats, it's an important journey because we must come to the pro-life position in order to fight our party on this issue. So if we're coming at this, as pro-life Democrats, but you see that, some of them are voting for Joe Biden, I totally understand the frustration, but I think that we also have to understand that we are moving this forward and it's not going to happen in one election cycle or even 1 year of advocacy. It's going to take some time, but we're on the right path. And I think, the goal as pro-life Democrats should be to continuously push back on the party. And that means not giving aid to pro-choice candidates.
Totally. So, Teresa, one of the things that I'm curious about is my perspective, and I mean, you tell me if you think I'm wrong, but has been that the pro-choice stance is not something that is native to the Democratic Party by any stretch. I mean, this is a relatively new adoption they've made to their platform. I think it was just in 2016 that they officially said, like, okay, no more with the pro-life Democrats. We're not letting them into the party anymore. So this is brand new relative to the Democratic Party. And there have to be blue collar Democrats out there who don't agree with that. So what do you hear from people when you actually talk to Democrats on the ground about this issue? I mean, is this popular among the people? Because obviously the party is pushing this on the people of the Democratic Party.
I think that it's a reflection of what we know to be true, that most people's politics define their ideology, not the other way around. So I think that it's not fair to ask people to look at this from an ideological perspective. I mean, of course, we all want everyone to do that, but most people are going to fall into where, an ideology or a political party that they identify with, and they're going to find ways of justifying continuing to identify that way. I've done a lot of research on what it takes to change people's minds. And from everything that I've read, the new idea has to be almost identical to the old idea to not trigger someone's confirmation bias in that circumstance. And I think that we're just all so deeply entrenched in our own confirmation bias that asking someone to just consider this one issue, that is the uphill battle. But I think the antidote to that is showing more pro-life Democrats, showing that, like, because there isn't any real leadership coming from the party on this issue.
Right.
We spent years trying to work alongside Democrats, playing it nice and like trying to have a seat at the table, and they gave us lip service for years, but where has it gotten us?
Right.
And I think that, you know, Democrats are kind of waking up to where the party is taking this, whereas before it was like safe, legal, and rare. And now we want taxpayer funded abortion up until birth. And I think, you know, even the more pressing concern that a lot of people aren't talking about is the fact that, you know, multi-millions of dollars are going to be funneled into fetal tissue research under a Biden administration. And fetal tissue research relies on late-term fetuses that cannot be given feticides in order to harvest their organs. They have to be pristine. And there are hundreds of these projects that are active across the country right now. And those projects will, the funding will continue. And this is so horrific. This is something that most Democrats would absolutely not support if they knew that it was happening. So I think it's a matter of giving voice to pro-life Democrats, but also really highlighting the extremism of our party so that it can be seen, and so that we can see that, look, you can hold totally left-leaning points of view. You can have the exact same ideology as the Democratic platform, but we must challenge them on abortion, and then they're more likely to see themselves in the movement.
So with regards to the fetal tissue issue, the fetal tissue research, with regards to that specifically, President Trump has addressed that a little bit. So what's your take? I mean, and I, not that I want to ask who you're voting for, but I'm curious what you decided to do this year, because I think it's relevant, right? You know?
Yeah. Well, I didn't vote for anyone for president, which is a very empty feeling. I'm not excited about it, but I also didn't have a great feeling last time I voted in 2016. So I really am hoping to change that. But sorry, I forgot the first part of your question.
No, that's remember? Okay. It was just in reference to the fact that President Trump has sort of addressed
the executive order, protecting infants born alive. Yeah. This is so crucial. This is the first time, I mean, to my knowledge, that there have been real federal protections for infants in the womb. And we know that a Biden-Harris ticket and presidency and White House and HHS will absolutely eliminate those protections. And those are very real. They're very tangible. We know that there are hundreds of instances of infants being born alive. We know in fetal tissue research, because they cannot use digoxin, which is the feticide that they use on the late-term infants, that born alive infants occur up to half of the time at those late gestational ages. And that is according to pro-choice research. So when we're thinking about, like, I think a lot of Democrats think, oh, you know, well, abortion is already legal and Biden isn't really going to change that. But yes, Biden is absolutely going to change the outcomes for these late-term viable, often babies who are being targeted for fetal tissue research and likely born alive and then dissected for their organs. That is real. And pro-life Democrats really need to understand that when they are providing aid to these pro-choice candidates, that it's not just maintaining the status quo. It's literally allowing these horrors to flourish in our nation.